Hello teachers, the final chapter on policies and highlights of the Ministry of Education, and we have watched 3 clips. Now we're in 4 episodes. 3 episodes. Episode 1 will be the focus point 1, 2. Episode 2 will be the focus point 2, 3, 3, 4, and episode 3 as well. 5 and 6. Now it will be the 7th section. And then, finally, there will be the matter of driving. Finally, the most important thing is that there will be fun activities for teachers to do. Don't do it for the fun. Once you do it, you'll have to score points. In the policy or focus point in item 7, the issue of driving education laws and the National Education Plan. If talking about educational laws, the National Education Plan we have already studied in the beginning. The educational law that we have talked about has been since the Constitutional Act. We are not familiar with this royal decree. We do not have much of it. But in the Ministry of Education, in the area of education, there are ministerial regulations. This is considered to be a subsidiary law or a subordinate law after being extended from the Constitution or from the Act. In the field of education or in the ministry, it will expand primarily from the Act, but also from the Act that is the continuation of the Constitution. In addition to this, there will be announcements and other things. What are the rules and regulations? But it's a subtype, usually used in small agencies. But in all things of educational law, we all call it educational law. And then another one, even in the National Education Plan. Education plans that will be in the terms of policy, even, for example, the National Development Plan, or called National Strategy, Educational Strategy, is the National Education Plan, which has many memes, the longest being the 20-year National Education Plan. And there is also a medium-term plan for 5 years, and a plan at the end of the year which we call an action plan. Let's see the details. Look at the examples of educational laws in Section 7 mentioned. Driving educational laws in National Building Development Plans. If the law and plan, the Ministry of Education will talk about the preparation of secondary laws. What we understand is child law, legislation adopted to support the National Education Act. Where did the Education Act come from? Do you remember? Yes, from what version of the Constitution? Who remembers? Issue 16, since the year 1997. The Constitution stated that there should be national education laws. It was very popular, and it was the first time in Thailand that there was a national education law. So, there was a National Education Act starting from what year? How many revisions were in 1999? The first 3 times are 2005. Why? Because the change in ministry, changing the name. There is a law on changing the names of ministries and bureaus issued in 2002 as well. The Ministry of Education was originally the draft of the National Creation Act and was submitted when it was approved in 1999. The Act was approved at the time, and the name of the ministry was the Ministry of Education, Religion and Culture. But later, in 2002, it changed to the Ministry of Education as before. As for matters of religion and culture, it is used as a Ministry of Culture. As soon as we change the name here, the words that are used are changed, including the contents of the law regarding religion and culture have changed. There was another change in 2010, which was the matter of changing the original education area to have one type of area, later, or 2 types. That is, the area type of primary, industrial, secondary level was changed again at the ministry. Higher Education Court, Office of the National Higher Education Commission at the next level. Established as a Ministry of Fertility in 2019, therefore any part that is a word or content that is specified in the law regarding fertility will be adjusted. But now, it's all been adjusted and it's the current version. When the Education Act is changed, secondary laws will actually be made. These laws have been in existence for a long time. Next, we will look at an example law of the Ministry of Education, both supporting the National Education Act and supporting laws in other parts. Like the first one, this one is about the administrative structure. From the ministry level and other agency levels down, an example is the Ministry of Education Administrative Regulations Act No. 3, BE 2020. It shows that there is one version or 2. With one version of the third level, each version has been since 1999 as well. Next comes the matter of ministerial regulations. The example here is to give an example here. There are many different acts. There are a lot of ministerial regulations. Moreover, there is a lot of ministerial regulations, especially ministerial regulations regarding the division of various government agencies. Every unit has ministerial regulations of each agency. For example, an example is the division of government agencies into the Office of the Vocational Education Commission, Ministry of Education, 2003. All basic command agencies were there, and there were rich things because at the time they were still with the Ministry of Education. There were private things, and there were also non-formal education. And there are many ministerial regulations regarding other matters as well. So I leave the teachers to study and see what aspects they have. And which one is directly related to you? Go into the details, and you will learn how it has been related to us since the beginning and how it has changed until now. But when practicing, consider the most recent version. In other areas, he asks of the law. The law in this part of basic education is quoted in part, and then bring up only some units to show that they are divided like this, such as the Compulsory Education Act. Do you remember the Compulsory Education Act? How many years? 9 years, that's right. 9 years since which level? Students from grade primary 1 to junior high school is 9 years. Primary school is 6 years and junior high is 3 years, which is 9 years in total. Don't memorize it interchangeably with basic education. How many years does basic education take? 12 years. 12 years adds up. Add another 3 years of high school or vocational certificate. What does this basic education union connect to? Linked to the matter of receiving support from the government to take care of free tuition. And the budget issue is not only a matter of basic education, now it has moved down. I suspect that before compulsory education, another 3 years is early childhood or kindergarten, and then another 3 years of preschool to take care of. In terms of the highlights of the Ministry of Education, in terms of care and assistance in this area, have already been mentioned in this section as well. Here, you think about what we have heard and read and what it is. There are parts that you don't want to say, but you must know. For example, horoscope equals how many years of compulsory education, how many years of basic education, from how many to how many. Budget or expenses for education that the state takes care of, it is considered free from when, how many years, from which level. You must learn that I don't want to say there is an exam. I don't want to say that I learned to take the exam, but if there is an exam, you can answer it because you've already learned it. Another law for basic education is the ministerial regulations. There is an act with ministerial regulations regarding the right to provide basic education by families, clipped from last year. In the previous episode, we discussed the issue of family education, English word. There are 2 terms related to education, because this family's education is like a school, that is, a home school, right? This is a type of thing where parents arrange for the education of their children by themselves, without having to log into the management system yourself. Simply put, it's like a school. Then, there is the main process that the Ministry of Education has determined. Another part is learning at home, called learning-based. This is where learning at home is about. Home-based learning gives the right to organize education by families. The next thing for many private teachers here is to be private teachers. Let's take a look at what the private sector has to offer. It's definitely the Private Schools Act, called the Private Schools Act. There was a second edition in 2002, indicating there must have been a first edition. If this is the current version, you should go and see what content it contains. Another one is the Ministerial Regulations or the Determination of Fees for Operations. Private School Businesses 2010. This one will be a little new. These things are about giving and then it becomes acidic. You'll be able to collect fees, expenses, etc. How much do our learners or students get? What are the conditions? This is also beneficial for private school administration, which will have clear operational guidelines. There is an open channel that can be carried out. There is no predetermination that it must be something like this. Let's see the interesting information. Some are related to individuals. There are laws regarding teachers and educational personnel, such as Acts on Civil Service Regulations for Teachers and Educational Personnel. This one is related to government teachers, or, to put it simply, if it were an agency, it would now be called a Teachers' Council. But teachers who are civil servants will still be under this Act. Another thing is the ministerial regulations that says occupation is controlled. Our controlling career is ours. Professional license. The teaching profession is a high-class profession and requires a professional license. We all know this well. Therefore, the law, which apart from the example given here, is all the law that concerns you, even the law itself. Announced as regulations such as announcements from the Teachers' Council will also be considered part of the law. Which one is related to you? Then, you will first know what the laws are about you. If it's best, make an account called Making a List. On the internet, they have written a lot, but you will have to pull out what parts are relevant to you personally, and what is directly related that you need to know. Going into the legal version, there are a lot of them. Some people don't like to read them, so they don't want to read them. But the way to read the law is what is called skimming through it first and then looking at it. Which section is relevant to us? Then read and interpret to understand what the intention or message is there so that you can put it into practice correctly. It's not illegal, and it's a part where once we know about it, we have the confidence to carry out various activities without worry. Coming to the topic that will be the final part of this 4-part series on policy and highlights of the Ministry of Education, all of the above mentioned 7 points come down to the final decision that will bring the policy things into motion. How can it be put into practice? Is this policy written similarly to other laws? Let's try it and see if you can link it to another one. You can now link to this law. When there are activities, what work is there? It's okay to secretly speak softly. If there's an exam, you can use it to connect, because it's a general principle that can be applied, especially the message that is said in your opinion. What should I do? I can answer it all, because that is our opinion, but it must be in accordance with the principles. It's not writing idly. It's not writing about feelings. It's in accordance with principles. These principles will be adapted for you. For example, the first one is for government agencies under the jurisdiction of higher education to adopt the policy and focus of the Ministry of Education as a framework for organizing education. Therefore, the work of each agency that will be under the Ministry of Education must be looked at here to see whether it is consistent with the policy or not. Definitely in line with the focus. You will ask for a budget. If it doesn't match the focus, it will probably be difficult to get. But if it's the focus point, if you want to frame it in your part, ask the details that will be implemented in the policy, and this point do not go into detail to the point of having to do this or that. That is, you think about it yourself, but you have to bring the policy into framework for organizing education. By having to make a plan and then request an annual budget, don't forget to bring the royal science as well. Therefore, at any point that can be inserted, this one is inserted. You are probably already familiar with this, but you yourself, being a teacher, consider it a point of learning that says, simply put, at whatever point we ask for money, we have to write it according to what he wants or what he needs to emphasize. If it's not correct, we probably won't get it. I would probably say that I will consider the last part to see if it is necessary or not. That doesn't mean that the scale isn't the focus at all. But we have our own spatial needs, and we have to give it here. Because at that point, he already mentioned sitting and writing in verse 3, saying the budget focuses on that area as a base, so the context of that area can be used. Point 2. Of course, if there is monitoring and evaluation, there must be a committee dedicated to doing this. It is a central committee and should be at the central level of the ministry. It must have the ministry's presence. An agency that will take care of many agencies in the area should have that committee as well. To take care of this and then follow up and evaluate, it must be followed up periodically. A system must be put in place to follow when and what to do. If technology comes into play as well, then there is filling in information online that facilitates filling out information to be reported. This will make the results of monitoring and evaluation count efficiently and will have up-to-date information. The results can be easily summarized as a whole. This committee will be responsible for monitoring, evaluating, and reporting on the advancement of education policy and turning it into practice in the area. That is, after tracking, there may be a need to go back and see where things were done well and where things were done further. If at least the target was reached, things might not be done quite right, and there would be suggestions for changes and improvements. Next, in verse 3, the meaning is as follows. There are spatial problems and operational problems. In general, or is it in the old practice that is the same tradition, it often comes back to asking for advice, asking for a solution. With a northern unit or related unit or above, sometimes requested to the Ministry of Education. In case there is a problem like this, please advise and ask for clarification. Doing so in this message says to fix it at a local level first. Might use network partners, meaning that the network might be at the education institution level with neighboring educational institutions. How do you do it? And are there any problems? If there is no problem, what should I do? Please advise. Or in the area with the agency we belong to that can advise us, is there a way to fix the level first? Fix the faulty parts and then make recommendations and report to the monitoring committee that at this point there are areas that need to be improved because it cannot be continued. Therefore, there will be a correction in the system. If a correction is close to the system, if you do not exceed the correction beforehand, it will cause a glitch. This one is open and allows you to try to fix it first and see how it works. If it turns out to be good, then it might be an example of what we call best practice for other agencies or other educational institutions. For the missions of the main government agencies and agencies performing strategic functions in this agenda and this area, it means that whatever was done previously, whether at the agency level in terms of policy or agency level in practice, at the area level or at the operational level, what you have done before is in line with the policies and highlights of the Ministry of Education. Let's keep up with it. It may not quite match the guidelines, so just keep doing it. Consider it the duty of the main government agency and related agencies to expedite business supervision and inspection. Carrying out operations to be successful and effective is concrete. If it's a good place to live, stop and look first. Whether it's acting as a supervisory monitor or an evaluation, let's evaluate this part as well. Or which agency performs any duty that is consistent with the policy. Do it as well and evaluate the data to evaluate it. This information can be used to evaluate the policy and focus of the ministry here as well, this year. The meaning is like this. In conclusion, we only get medals for this episode first in point 7. Before point 7, we will talk about the promotion of educational laws and the United Nations plan. The first thing we have learned is that we have learned that our educational laws, review of unlearning and review of education laws. What laws are there? We know that the highest is the Constitution, but the focus of the Ministry of Education here is secondary laws or continuation laws from the National Education Act. This is considered an important educational law that every educational agency, every Ministry of Education will put into practice and drive operations that achieve the aims of the Act or goals or intentions. In this section, there will be examples for each section, which in fact there are many. For example, presented in 3 sections or sections that are the administrative structure of 3-4 sections of the administrative structure of basic education and of practice. Another part of the private sector is the part related to teachers and educational personnel. That would be the law. Don't forget to go back and review what Professor Niwat mentioned here, and if there are other things, there are many laws. And where is it directly related to us? Where is it directly related to our educational institution? Where is it directly related to the type of your educational institution? Ours is state or private, which groups are involved. You will know the law that is used in the performance of duties, your work or carrying out missions according to your duties and responsibilities, whether you work at the level of an educational institution or if one's own person is able to use the legal system's provisions in operations. Driving, which has guidelines for what drives. There is a monitoring committee, there is a monitoring team, and there is a system for monitoring. If there are any agencies or individuals who are already responsible for monitoring, please follow up. If the work is not consistent, use that information as follow-up information. And then there's the matter of problem solving. If there is a stumbling block at any point, corrective actions will be taken in the area by using networks that work with us, and it will be friends who work together or be friends from different educational institutions or different departments. Even though they are under different affiliations, they operate in the same way and can be a network to ask for advice and suggestions. Yes, let's summarize the overall picture of this episode. What did we learn today? We learned the law. We learned how to drive. If you're involved in driving that movement, what would you do in the legal part? What laws are relevant to you? If you're going to teach, what should you teach? It must be graded. As for letting them know how to think, leave it to teach students how to think. You can think analytically, or you can think about something else and teach it. If you want to teach it, let them think. Don't teach him to remember. Teach him to think like Professor Tiwat is teaching him to think straight. Even the activity that will be discussed next is not really a test. If we say a test, it is like giving a crazy look to collect points. Actually, it is an activity that allows you to review what you have studied. Come. Among the many episodes here, on this topic on policy and on this point on the matter of Ministry of Education, you have what will be reflected back on how you have knowledge and understanding and can translate it into written answers. The questions will be as follows. How are you involved in educational policy? Educational policy may be broader than the educational policy of the Ministry of Education, but will focus on the Ministry of Education's emphasis may be stopped. It will be clear. To explain in time by linking or emphasizing the meaning is to take related points. It may be one or more than one. Or the issue can be taken as a matter of yourself being involved in which item first, which information first. If the subsidiary is concerned with which item, then if there are many points, it means that the point is in this point on the side as well, and we are in another point on the other side as well. Write them all together and link them to say that in this point it was said on that side, that one, and it is still mentioned in the section in this side. And how does it relate to you? Of course, you may have to tell yourself where you are as a teacher, what your duties are, and what the educational policy points that are relevant to you are. Write according to your opinion. No, don't go. You don't need to rely on iChat, that GP, because if you rely on it and the teacher catches you, he will know. Every time the teacher encounters even students who study with the teacher, I caught them all from where they got them and came to ask, and it wasn't wrong. But you will study from various sources related to this topic and then link them up. But if it is someone else who has written it, please leave it as a reference. It is not wrong for us to bring in quotes or study results or ideas, but we must give credit to them, otherwise it would be wrong or considered against academic ethics. If someone is a government official, it is connected to their career and duties. Leave it to them to practice. It ends in all 4 episodes. All 4 episodes and this last episode as well. Or about the policy and focus of the Ministry of Education, I would like you to go back and review. I would like you to go back and study more. May you be happy with learning in the various modules. Every section has scores received from feedback. This allows you to successfully pass each module. For now, this clip about the policy of the Ministry of Education and outlets or highlights of the Ministry of Education is over. That is all I wish for. See you in the next video. Thank you.